hello there.
Hi guys, Podmaster here, and I don't usually do these kind of videos a whole lot, and I don't intend to start doing them more, but I just saw the Rise of Skywalker yesterday, and I just thought I would share my thoughts and kind of just do a formal review on it. So yeah, let's go. Alright, so as most of you know, the Rise of Skywalker came out yesterday, Friday December 20th, and I saw it with 3 of my friends, and we had a really fun time. You know, I always enjoy going to the movies, but if I'm being completely honest, this has to be my least favorite Star Wars movie that has come out. Even worse than Attack of the Clones, which I still like, but the whole romance thing is pretty bad in it. And also, this should go without mentioning, but there are going to be spoilers in this review. I'm not going to do a whole 2-minute spoiler-free and then full review thing. I'm just going to go straight into spoilers. So if you haven't seen the movie, please click off this video right now. And I repeat, if you haven't seen the movie, please leave. There will be spoilers. Alright, so I'm just going to get started with what I liked with the movie, even though I really, didn't like it at all. But I don't want to be totally negative, because there was some stuff that I did like. So the first thing I want to start with is 2 words. Babu Frick. This little guy just stole the show for me. I mean, he was so cute, and every time he spoke, my friends and I just started laughing, and yeah, he was just really cool, and I really liked that he played a pretty big role in the movie for one of the newer characters, because I feel like so often in movies they just introduce new characters, and the new character's just in there for, maybe one scene or something, and then they're gone. So I'm really happy that he had a really big role in the movie, kind of repairing C-3PO's brain so they could access the Sith data or the translation from the Wayfinder. So that was really cool that they were able to put him in the movie in that kind of a big role. He was just really cute. Yeah, that's a nice segue into my second point, which is the new characters. I absolutely loved Jannah and Zorii Bliss. They were phenomenal. Again, going with my last point, I had pretty low expectations of these new characters just because, so many movies just introduce these one-off characters that, don't really have a big impact in the story. But with Jannah, I really loved her backstory about her being her and her kind of crew on Kef Bir, I think the plan is, with the Death Star, that they're ex-stormtroopers, and it really showed that Finn wasn't the only person who defected from the First Order. And that was a nice moment where Finn and Jannah were kind of sharing their stories between each other, and I really liked that. It was just a really kind of heartwarming moment, and this really cool moment to see that again, Finn wasn't the only person who had issues with the First Order and their whole stormtrooper thing. Then Zorii Bliss, I also liked her for a little bit of a different reason though. I really liked how they used her to kind of address Poe's background, that he was actually a spice runner for Zorii and her crew on Kijimi, and then he left, and that would explain how they knew each other, because it was known before the film that Zorii and Poe knew each other. So the film did a nice job of explaining that in a way that I understand what was happening. And yeah, it also showed that Poe wasn't this brave and bold hero for his whole life that we kind of are alluded to believing in the Force Awakens and The Last Jedi, but he was he's really progressed as a person. So I really liked how the film showed that. And the next thing I want to talk about is the Force connection between Rey and Kylo that was established in Last Jedi. This film did a great job of showing that more just kind of intimate scenes between the two of them with the Force connection, and really showing that it progressed. Like in The Last Jedi, when Rey was on Ahch-To and she was talking to Kylo Ren, Kylo Ren felt a little bit of water on his glove after they talked. But in The Last Jedi, that he actually ripped off her necklace and they were actually able to fight in a room, but they weren't actually there. So that was really cool that they were able to do that, and that's how Kylo Ren knew that Rey was on his ship, because they destroyed the pedestal with a mask, and he saw that. So I really liked how that Force connection really developed from The Last Jedi to this movie. Alright, so the next thing I want to talk about is some kind of allusions to different Star Wars movies, which I guess you would call fan service, but I'm just going to call allusions. The first one I noticed was when Palpatine and Rey were together, and he was like, "Strike me down and you will become the Emperor of the Galaxy," or something like that. And that just reminded me so much of when Obi-Wan and Vader are fighting, and Obi-Wan just kind of stands like this and he says, "Strike me down and I shall be more powerful than you ever imagined," or something like that. So that was cool that they kind of reused that quote. And then another allusion or a fan service moment I noticed was with The Empire Strikes Back. Luke as a Force ghost raised the X-Wing out of the water on Ahch-To so Rey could use it, because she burned the TIE fighter, Kylo's fighter that she stole. And yeah, and he did that, so Rey could save her friends, and that really reminded me of Empire Strikes Back, where Yoda raised the Luke's X-Wing out of the Dagobah swamp so Luke could go save his friends on Cloud City. So that was a really cool kind of similarity between the two movies that I really enjoyed, and it made me smile in the theater. Okay, so as I was editing this section, there was another thing I wanted to mention for this part as part of kind of the smaller like Easter eggs fan service thing. At the beginning of the movie, I was so happy because Palpatine said, you know, like he quoted his line from Revenge of the Sith, where he says, "The dark side of the Force is a pathway to many abilities, some considered to be unnatural." That's my best impression. Sorry if you guys don't like it, but I was really happy that they were able to include that line, and I really liked it. I found myself actually saying it along with him in the theater, which was really cool. So that was a cool little nod that they threw in there, and I'm not really sure where else to put this in the video just because I'm pretty far along in editing it, but I just wanted to talk about how Leia was handled because I don't think I actually talked about that in the other parts of the video. If I do, I'll probably just cut this part out, but I think I just want to say that they did the best they could given the circumstance because, you know, Carrie Fisher's been, you know, dead for I think over 3 years now, so obviously they don't have any new footage to use for the plot, and I understand the circumstances, but the scenes with her just felt really kind of clunky and out of place. Again, kind of like the planets I mentioned earlier. I felt like they kind of just had her in the movie because they had to. And yeah, it would be kind of weird if she wasn't in the movie, but they just kind of lacked cohesion of all the scenes that she had, and I feel like she didn't really have as big of an impact on the plot that I would have liked her to have. I did like her when she was at the beginning kind of helping Rey train, but that really caught me off guard again because her Jedi background never was really alluded to, at least of any canon material I'm familiar with. So, yeah, overall, I understand the circumstances, but I really didn't have a positive opinion of Leia's portrayal in this movie. Another kind of small thing I want to talk about was the kind of Jedi voice montage. That was amazing. I loved hearing, you know, Ahsoka and Kanan and like Obi-Wan and, you know, all those people as kind of saying, you know, Rey, the Force is with you. That was such an amazing moment where, you know, Rey's kind of passed out, but hearing that, she kind of like gathers the strength and gets herself back up. That was a great moment. The Luke and Leia training, that was really cool. So if you guys don't remember from the movie, there's a brief moment where Luke, as a Force Ghost, obviously is talking to Rey on Ahch-To, and he said that Luke and Leia was actually training with Luke to become a Jedi, and I don't know if that was made clear in some sort of canon material before this, but that was a revelation to me, as I thought Leia didn't have anything to do with the Jedi at all. I just thought she was kind of just raising Ben Solo and stuff like that, but apparently not. Yeah, it was really, really neat that she had her own lightsaber as well, kind of going with that, obviously, because she was training as a Jedi. And I gotta say, huge props to the actors, or however they animated that scene. The facial features of Luke and young Luke and young Leia looked phenomenal. So, huge props for the team who did that. And also, I'm kind of happy that they didn't, you know, use that for a huge section of the movie. It's just brief shots of Luke's face and Leia's face. And another kind of a small thing I really liked was the cameos and a few of the new characters that we saw. So I saw Wedge. He made an so brief cameo in the end battle where he was in the Millennium Falcon gunner spot. I was really bummed that he was only in that part for such a short period of time. You know, I thought they were going to have maybe him interacting with some of the heroes or something, or maybe more present on those conversations on the Resistance base or something like that. But only in for that very brief moment. At least he did have a line though, but it was really nice to see Wedge again because he was present in every single space battle in the original trilogy, but now he's back in the sequels, so that's awesome. And then there's also Aftab Akbar. Maybe I should have put this in the complaint category, but I really liked seeing him, and he actually had several lines which I was really surprised about. I thought they was gonna, like, if you guys don't know who he is, Aftab is actually Admiral Akbar's son. So it was nice to see that, you know, the Akbar family, the Mon Calamari, are present in like the sequel and the original trilogies, kind of fighting for the good side, I guess. And it was really cool to see him. I wish he was a little more involved in the kind of, you know, in the space battle at the end instead of Lando leading it. Maybe he could have been on some like Mon Calamari command ship. You know, kind of I feel like that would be a really good way to kind of, you know, show that the Mon Calamari had a really big impact on the Rebel Alliance and the Resistance, as well as kind of continuing his father, like following his father's footsteps, I guess. But alas, he wasn't present, but I was still really happy to see him in live action after he appeared in the comics. And another So the last two things kind of that I really liked came at the end of the movie. I love the final montage. Again, kind of an allusion to Return of the Jedi, where in this movie you saw like the First Order Star Destroyers being destroyed above Endor, and you saw Wicket. I'm like, yay, Wicket! Wicket's back, and that was awesome. I love seeing Wicket and Endor and all that stuff. And then we also saw Cloud City again at the end in that kind of montage with the Star Destroyers kind of crumbling above the city, and that was great. And then last but certainly not least is the final scene. And this was such a symbolic way to end the saga, where it was Rey and BB-8 looking at the twin suns at Luke's home. That was just so, emotional, and I almost cried during this movie, during that part of the movie, but I didn't. It was so symbolic, because she went back to the place where the whole saga began, and really, I feel like the whole story of the Skywalker saga began, where Luke's kind of looking at the suns and dreaming of a better life, and then right after that scene, he gets thrust right into a galactic conflict. So yeah, again, that was really a symbolic way to end the saga, going right back to where the first movie and Luke's story really began, and just that was a really, really good way to end the Skywalker saga. Alright, so now I'm going to be getting into the things I didn't like, and these can be pretty much boiled down to the 4 P's I want to call it. Pacing, Palpatine, parentage, and plot holes. Let's start with pacing. So with the pacing, I felt that especially in the beginning of the movie, there was way too much planet hopping. I mean, we were on Agent Kloss, and then before that we were at that kind of space station with the Ovissian gunner. I love the Battlefront 2 reference. And then we were at Kijimi and Agent Kloss and Pisana, and then there's just so much going on, and especially with the whole. Even the opening crawl where they're talking about the whole Palpatine message thing, I thought they were going to focus more on that, but it was just so confusing, because you can't just bring that up and then don't talk about the Palpatine message at all till like 30 minutes into the movie, and I really didn't like that. And I didn't like the whole planet hopping thing in Rogue One either. That was the only real gripe I had about that film, is that the beginning and the planet hopping is just so confusing, where they're going to Wobani and then the base and Jeddah and stuff like that. I didn't like it then, and I don't like it now. And that brings me to a second point that's also kind of in this category. I kind of felt that the new planets that they introduced, like Pisana and Kijimi, they just felt like an afterthought to me. That the only reason they were in the movie is just because it was a new movie. The Star Wars, like Lucasfilm, felt obligated to add new planets just to show they're not going to the same locations every time. And although the locations were kind of interesting, I liked Agent Kloss as a jungle planet. That was really cool. And then Kijimi is kind of like it's a snow planet like Hoth and stuff like that, but it was different. But I just felt that we just kind of, it was like checking off a box versus actually being, significant to the plot, I guess. I mean, I know someone would probably disagree with me, but I just felt like it's just way too much planet hopping. I wish they spent more time on it, especially Pisana. The second P I want to talk about is Palpatine. Now, at Star Wars Celebration this year, they revealed that he was going to be coming back for this movie, and I was so excited, oh my god, Palpatine's back, this is awesome. And again, kind of on a thematic, symbolic level, I was excited about that because he played such a huge role in, especially the prequel trilogy and the original trilogy, and I feel like it would be really odd and just kind of off-putting if he wasn't present at all in the sequel trilogy. But the way, I always had my doubts about how they were actually going to be fitting him into the plot, and let's just say my doubts were realized. The way that, I don't know how to say this, but the way he was included in the movie was just so bizarre, and even me as a die-hard Star Wars fan had no idea what was going on. Like, I didn't understand how he got to his current state, and that was not explained at all at the film, Like, and also a lot of other questions, Where is this whole Sith fleet coming from? Why can't he stand up? Where are his eyes? How did he create Snoke? But he said, yeah, I created Snoke and he was my puppet or something. But, how did he do that? They didn't talk about that at all, and it's just so confusing, Again, kind of with the planets, I kind of felt like he was just there because he had to be, not because he really added anything to the plot, and that really bummed me out. Okay, so the third P I want to talk about is Rey's parentage. When it was revealed that Rey was a Palpatine, my heart just sank. I was just so disappointed. My eyes were just rolling. I was just, oh my god, are you serious? My friends who aren't even Star Wars fans felt the same way. They're just like groaning, like, oh, really? You know, that was the most predictable thing they could have done. It was just so. I really didn't like how they revealed that. I didn't like that reveal at all. And that kind of brings me to another point about this, is that this movie just contradicted so much about The Last Jedi. Like, The Last Jedi, for example, you know, with this issue, it made clear that, you know, Kylo was telling Rey that, you know, her parents were nobody. And it really emphasizes this point that you don't have to be from the Skywalker family or the Kenobi family, like everyone thought she was a Kenobi, to be really strong in the Force. And, you know, your family doesn't determine whether or not you can make a difference where you are. And that was a really powerful message that after viewing The Last Jedi a few times I understood. But they just destroyed that, you know. And I guess this is kind of, in this movie, they destroyed that message here. And that was a big thing. There's some other examples which I can't think of that other people have pointed out, but that brings me to another point. The parentage felt very kind of double-sided. I will give it credit. It did explain how she is so strong in the Force, how she had that connection with Kylo Ren, in how they're able to develop that so much. But at the same time, like I just said, it really just unwinds so much of what The Last Jedi tried to do with this. This is a very minor kind of grope with this whole plot thread, but how, when, and where and who did Palpatine have a child with? Because that has not been hinted or referenced at all anywhere in canon. I mean, I understand that because I didn't want to, you know, potentially spoil this movie, but that kind of, the nitpicker in me just really realized that, because Rey is Palpatine's granddaughter. That was a big reveal, but they didn't explain who did Palpatine have a kid with, and was that kid her mom or her dad? And I didn't understand that, and that wasn't made clear at all. And I really wish they kind of elaborated on that exactly as that kind of family structure. I wonder who. You know, I kind of wonder if maybe he had that child with his Umbaran aide, who I can't remember her name, but she's in the prequel, so maybe he had the child with her. I don't know. Maybe like he just conceived his child out of the Force, like a midichlorians and stuff. But only time will tell with that. I honestly think that's what he did, because, you know, the movies or films or books have never made any allusion to him being married or being with a woman. So I mean, Palpatine I'm referring to here. So hopefully the new stories will help clear that up a bit. The last P I want to talk about is plot holes. So there's several in this movie, which again, it's really hard. I wasn't taking notes or anything during the movie. This is all from memory and reading plot summaries. But the big one is that at the end of the movie, where you saw the shot in the trailers where Orlando's dropping in the Millennium Falcon, and you know, he has this huge fleet behind him. It understood, you know, explained how they won the battle, obviously, but I didn't understand how they got that fleet, because The Last Jedi, especially, and this movie also as well, really emphasized that the Resistance was really alone in their struggle against the First Order. Like, no one was going to help them. They sent the distress signal. No one came to help. And then, you know, like, they said that people were afraid. And then I saw some books that really kind of elaborate on this. You know, the First Order took over the hyperspace ways and really cracked down on any planet that supported the Resistance at all. So that makes sense. That explains something, but it doesn't explain how they got the fleet, because, you know, since people were so afraid, you know, Poe in the trailer says people will fight if we lead them. Okay, that could explain the fleet, but what has the Resistance done to really lead the galaxy to inspire these people to fight, let alone all those ships that you saw in that shot? That was just, I really hated how that wasn't explained at all or set up at all in this movie, and that stuff like that really bugged me. Again, they didn't really lead the galaxy at all. And last but not least, this is not last, there's another thing I didn't write down but I wanted to talk about, but this is some minor details that I noticed. For example, on Acto in the Last Jedi Visual Dictionary, it was stated that the door on Luke's hut was made from one of his S-foils of the X-Wing, you know, one of the four, like, wing things. But in the movie, when Luke raises the X-Wing from the water, it still has all four of the S-foils, and the nitpicker in me really got annoyed by that. And there's a couple other things, but that was just one example I really remembered. Last but certainly not least, I wanted to just address how Rose was handled, and I was kind of disappointed because, you know, I honestly didn't find Rose to be as cringeworthy in The Last Jedi as some other people were. That as some other people did, especially after rewatching the film. I thought that she was, a fine character, not great, but not as bad as people were saying. And the whole like saving what we love thing, I didn't find that line as cringy the last time I watched The Last Jedi, which was this past weekend. But then the actor said that she would have a huge role in The Rise of Skywalker despite being absent from the marketing. That was it. She wasn't in very many of the teasers or the trailers and stuff like that. But her role in this movie was insignificant. I mean, she was barely in it. I kind of felt like she was just kind of there. Like, she kind of just butted her, when the Resistance kind of gathered and talked, she was kind of just talking. And I was really bummed when our heroes kind of went off on the adventure in the movie, finding the Wayfinder and stuff, that she didn't go along with them, because I thought The Last Jedi was trying to elevate her into kind of main character status, or at least maybe like a really close kind of secondary character, but that did not happen in this movie. And I saw some other people that kind of were talking about this. I didn't really think of it this way, but for all those people that were after The Last Jedi that were physically harassing, or sorry, not physically, I mean verbally and online harassing Kelly Marie Tran, who is the actor that played Rose, I feel like they kind of just won, because they were really criticizing her and not that she had such a pretty big role in The Last Jedi. But if they won, because they were trying to get her out of the movie, or in the less significant plot in the role in the movie, but they won because she wasn't not in the movie very much. And I was just really disappointed like that how the Lucasfilm kind of handled that situation, because they really just kind of empowered those people who were saying really nasty things about her, and that was just really disappointing for me that they decided to do that with her character. But other than that, that was like, I've been talking for almost 20 minutes now, and that is pretty much all I have to say about this movie. There is some other stuff I want to talk about, but I don't want to. I've seen other people say it a lot, so I don't want to say the exact same things as everyone else did. But I feel like I try to give you a balanced view of this movie as I possibly could. I tried to be positive, but I feel like I just didn't like it. But overall, I would probably give this movie around a 4 or 5 out of 10. I mean, some of the smaller things I talk about in my positive category were pretty good, but I just didn't like the overall plot and just pacing of the movie in general. Again, the 4 Ps, plot, pacing, Palpatine, and parentage, really bogged this movie down for me. So I'd probably give it a 5 out of 10 as my final score. And in terms of my ranking, I would probably place it as next to last actually, no, not next to last, because I like all the other movies just more than this movie, simply put. I'll probably watch it again sometime, but just not anytime in the near future. So, yeah, anyways, guys, this has been another episode of Popmaster, me doing a review of the Rise of Skywalker movie. Thank you guys so much for watching, and have a great day. Bye.